Welcome to the public AI Café today. The speaker is Alessio Azzutti. Hello, Alessio.
Hello, Carmen. Hello, everybody here.
This is a nice part. Alessio is here. He is in the moment working for the Center for Banking and Finance Law at the National University of Singapore. So you're already here, Singapore. Wow, it's far away, not in Europe. So great you're here, Alessio. And he will make a talk about AI trading and market manipulation, challenges for financial regulators. So my name is Carmen McWilliams. I'm your Café manager, and if you wish, you want to be speaker, please contact me after this Café. This Café is a part of the European research project AI for Media, and it is funded by the project, but there will be audiences and speakers from around the world, not only from the project. Please take notice that the session will be recorded. The link for the recordings you may find on our video channels if the speaker gets the permission afterwards to me. So Alessio has to tell me, yes, Carmen, you can publish, then I publish, else not. No confidential information shall be shared in this Café session. All speakers express their personal views and opinions. This is not necessarily the official AI for Media project opinion. So what is this Café about? It is about networking and sharing knowledge. And if you feel like after this Café to get in contact, you may write me or Alessio an email. And if you have maybe more questions, I welcome you all the participants out there. We cannot see you, but we know you're there. It's great you come today. Please, like always, send us your questions. We need your questions. Listen to the presentation, and when you feel like you want to say something to the speaker, ask him something, please send it to us. It doesn't work, the audio and video, because it's in recording, because you want to put it on YouTube, and this would be GDPR problems. So therefore, please use the text chat. And now I introduce Alessio. Alessio Azzutti currently serves as a research associate at the Center for Banking and Finance Law at the National University of Singapore. He is also a PhD candidate at the University of Hamburg School of Law. Before moving to Singapore, he was a research associate in the Law, Finance and Technology program at the Institute of Law and Economics at the University of Hamburg between January 2019 and December 2021. Alessio holds an LLM in Law and Economics from Utrecht University and a Master of Science in Finance and Risk Management from the University of Florence. His current research focuses on the implications of technological innovation for banking, payments, capital markets, law and regulation from an interdisciplinary perspective. Alessio is also a research member at the Center for AI and Digital Policy, spring 2023. So, and he is also a member of the European Banking Institute Young Researchers Group and a research fellow at the Hamburg Network and Law. So a lot of AI, that's why we are here. We all lovers of AI. So now we are curious. I will give you now the moderator role, and you may start your organization, Alessio. And here, yes, the presentation mode is on for you.
Okay, thank you very much, Carmen, for the nice introduction, and first of all, for the invitation to speak today at the AI Café.
Yes.
Can you well see my screen? Yeah.
Yes. Perfect.
All right. Let me just. I have this annoying. Oh, I will do without. So my task today is to introduce you of the audience to a topic to me of great interest, which relate to the implication of AI trading, the use of AI and machine learning, especially techniques, and their implication to market integrity. So we will deal mainly with issues of market manipulation by increasingly autonomous and often black box AI-based trading techniques, and what are the challenges that then arise for financial regulators in preserving financial stability and market integrity. The talk and the research is mainly based on my previous research within the context of my PhD studies at Hamburg University. And I'm glad to share that part of the research has been published in some journals, as you can see, and there's chapter book in other edited projects. So today main questions that we are going to address are: can indeed autonomous AI trading engage in market manipulation regardless of previous human intent? And how existing financial regulation is able to address the additional risk associated with AI trading? For example, are control mechanisms based on current regulatory regimes able to really empower the user of AI in controlling their algorithms? And in case not, how existing legal systems are dealing with issues of liability and harm committed by artificial intelligence trading? And then we will look at how financial supervisor indeed can safeguard the orderly trading, and then through the active monitoring of trading activity, and if they are really able, and to which extent issues arises in detecting abnormal trading activities, given the high optimization capabilities of certain techniques based on machine learning. And this would allow us to close the cycle, asking ourselves, is at the end of the day existing financial regulation able to protect market integrity? And if not, do we need innovative and creative rules to this purpose? Therefore, I will start with some definitions, so to have everybody on the same page. Then we will look at the use of artificial intelligence in financial trading, looking at some key concepts and some interesting application by financial major player in the industry. Then we'll go to conceptualize the risk of market manipulation by autonomous AI trading. I will then shift the attentions to the unsafe application of established market conduct rules, looking then at the challenges for regulatory regimes on the governance of algorithmic trading, then discuss the possibly not really effective strategy and mechanism of EU market conduct supervision. And finally, I will try to close the talk with some, I hope, innovative and stimulating proposal for regulation of AI trading. So let's start. Algorithmic trading, here I use the definition by MiFID, which basically refers to financial trading using computer algorithms to automate part or fully different task or the whole trading cycle with limited or no human intervention. By market manipulation, instead, we will refer to any market behavior that is able to distort the natural functioning of markets, for example, by providing false or misleading information or signals, leading other market players to trade in the direction that the manipulator would like they to trade. Or, for example, those market behaviors that has the purpose of altering prices. Then I will introduce the concept of collusion, which can be explicit when collusive parties are able to find explicit agreements on some practice, able to fix prices or any other distortion to the natural functioning of markets. But what is really of interest for us in the field of algorithmic trading and algorithmic trading agents is novel issues of tacit collusion. That it means collusive outcomes where humans are not directly involved in making cartel agreements, but rather is algorithms that just by observing populating markets and interacting each others, lead market prices, for example, to suboptimal competitive outcomes, or even to really collusive-like prices. Then here, just to make sure everybody is in the field of AI and have an understanding, I generally refers to all computer system-based techniques which aim at simulating human intelligent processes, such as our cognitive abilities or even decision-making tasks. So first of all, I want just to give some data on the phenomenon of algorithmic trading. This is a graph from the European Security Market Authority report on algorithmic trading from September 2021. It's a bit outdated, but still give us an idea of the size of the phenomenon. And you see that the share of algorithmic trading is quite high already in the markets, around 80%, with very slight decrease in trend, but we don't have data for 2020 and the last few years. But it's safe to believe that it's not really decreasing, but rather also looking at more recent reports, there is indeed a fostering in research in AI techniques and algorithmic trading, but in general. The same holds true for the bond markets. As you see, just in 1 year, the share of algorithmic trading-based trading in bonds increases from 40% to, again, around 80%, meaning that also those markets that are not maybe traditionally, that while we could expect algorithmic trading to well land in the equity trading because of the microstructure functioning of those markets, also the bond market itself is attracting a lot of algorithmic traders just in few years. So it's safe again to believe that algorithmic trading will increasingly play a substantial role in the allocation of capital and exchange of financial assets. When we look instead to derivatives trading, we understand that algorithmic trading is not still well developed there. But this is mainly due, I believe, to how the market of derivatives is structured, meaning that is mainly based still on client-to-client communications and agreements that usually happen over the counter and not necessarily through automated means of trading. Then, just to give you an idea of what an algorithmic trading system is and how it functions, this is a snapshot taken from a study by Rabi and others, 2020. As you can see, a given algorithmic trading system can have various use cases, can be used by proprietary trading desk, but also asset management, working for in the buy side for the clients, or marketing and negotiating instrument they create for the market, so more sell side. And basically, an algorithmic trading system is composed by different steps that define the whole trading cycle, from pre-trade stages to actual from stage that we're more directly involved with the actual trading and the trading decision making, up to post-trade analytics, meaning all those tasks that go to verify risk management, how risk has been managed, or the clearing of securities, and so on. Basically, any and each of these tasks requires some input data to be fed at the beginning of the process, which is algorithmic. Sorry if I wasn't clear so far. And as an outcome, an algorithmic trading system should lead to a given trading decision making, buy or sell a given financial instrument, up to much more complex financial strategies, combining different buy and sell orders in different financial assets across different markets, or can also simply be used, for example, to split large orders in little in smaller orders in order to achieve better execution, best execution. Any outcome, however, interact with the markets, of course, in terms of transaction being made, of order that go to fill the order book of trading venues, and itself become, of course, an input eventually for any other algorithmic trading system or other market participants more in general. The main takeaway of this slide that I would like to point out is that algorithmic trading system should not just be thought of as an algorithm that is trading for you, but rather as a complex architecture involving AI techniques, and should really be seen as a complex ecosystem of algorithms collaborating together towards a predefined goal. Now, because of the let's say the natural vocation of algorithmic trading, of course, machine learning, which is a subfield of AI, very well land and offer great opportunities to optimize some tasks or the whole trading cycle. Now, machine learning techniques and methods, differently from more deterministic AI applications, they don't function in the way that they rely on human encoding their own functioning and possibility and capabilities and possibilities, but rather, being data-driven approach, they are called to optimize with even limited or no human intervention without requiring any specific and all the steps being, again, in a deterministic way determined by humans expert. We have different paradigms that can be applied to not only financial trading, but in many other application domains. In my research, I've looked at all of them. Then we will see, because I was interested and I'm interested in understanding how really autonomous trading agents are likely to emerge and populate the market soon. And we will see that it's thanks to reinforcement learning combined with deep learning that we get closer to such a thing. Anyway, in supervised learning are those techniques that try to input, try to bridge input to output in order to generalize to a mathematical function, and they usually require humans to label empirical data, and can be used either for predictive tasks or for classification tasks. For example, given this data, can you predict the tomorrow's winner or loser in stocks, for example? Unsupervised learning instead require less human intervention and are used for clustering tasks, meaning that you feed with a lot of data your machine learning system in order to have it as an outcome provide you a clusterization of examples as target. So, for example, you feed with unlabeled data the machine in order, again, to can you cluster me different assets according to various factors. Can be, for example, volatility measures, past profitability, anything that in economic terms you may think about. No? Reinforcement learning instead are those techniques we still require some human intervention in order to define the action, the state, the environment of what are software agents, because reinforcement learning are methods that resemble the way also human knowledge developed through experience. I will come back later on the reinforcement learning techniques. More lately, much of the hype instead is on deep learning, which mainly are mathematical models that try to emulate the way the human cortex functioning operate. And they are powerful techniques in the sense that they allow for defining and dealing with non-linear function and correlation, so can really be helpful in a financial trading context, for instance, to find very latent correlation among structured and unstructured data to generate trading signals, for example. And most importantly, they can be used in combination with the 3 other paradigms just mentioned. So by deep computational finance, instead, I refer to the last wave of technological innovation in the methods, techniques, strategies, and financial trading. And I was mainly interested in the understanding of so-called software agents, or you can say artificial trading agents, that happens every time, for example, you employ deep reinforcement learning techniques, combining deep and reinforcement learning in a financial trading context. As you see, the reinforcement learning part of artificial trading agents define the basic functioning of the trading agents, meaning is an agent that is tasked with a predefined objective. For example, in a trading context, make as many profit you can under some, for example, risk control. And they are agents that operate with a predefined objective within a given environment. Again, this can be as small as trading in one single asset up to trading across different venues or multiple assets. Of course, the bigger the environment is, the more algorithmic complexity you will have. And also, the more complex the environment is, and the harder it is to have good results, in a sense, no? And stable algorithmic trading system based on this technology. Then, according to the environment and the task, these agents are called to take action and observe the result of their action. And in taking their action, they also modify interacting with the environment itself. And then every action is then, the quality of every action is measured in terms of reward. In the sense that for each action, a reinforcement learning-based agent is rewarded or punished, thinking indeed to achieve the preset objective by the human user. The deep learning part and deep reinforcement learning methods and base agents allow to use deep learning to sense the world of where the reinforcement learning agent is operating. And as we will see, the deep reinforcement learning agents present, although fascinating, can often present problems of black box. That indeed is one of the main problems facing regulators in all and each domain where some risk for society are at stake. So now I want to just give you an example to show you that it's really something that investment firms are researching on. This is from a talk where Manuela Veloso, she works from JP Morgan, she's a psychologist, but a neuroscientist, computer science, and they're actually using some kind of deep reinforcement learning to automate trading or at least research how to automate trading at JP Morgan. So basically, this is fascinating because they are using image classification techniques to generate trading signals. So just by observing the trading patterns in the market, this system may suggest to trade or not, or any other given action. Of course, you need to train your model with a lot of big amount of data. Sometimes must be, if it's not available, you even to simulate. And indeed, according to different image the machine can observe, then based on what it has trained before, it can be able to suggest a given action. And JP Morgan claims that the model is able to outperform or any other models that have been used so far. Although they also point out that some of the main risk involved with these techniques, again, relate to issues of transparency, explainability. And indeed, in a financial trading context, you need that the user is able to understand and control their algorithm not least to comply with the regulation. And here, just to show you that they are also interested in see how simulation can help to fine-tuning the functioning of their systems, and they indeed use agent-based modeling to understand the effect of particularly trading techniques on markets and how given experimental agents can, by interacting with other agents and the market itself, make profitable some given strategy. So overall, the main technical issues that I've investigated and delved into in their research and practice is, first of all, problem definition, in the sense that it's very important when you try to develop and implement a given AI techniques to have a clear and well-defined problem, mathematical problem to address, and to put it in the real market context. Then, for example, deep learning techniques can lead instead to issues of overfitting, meaning that sometimes you find super great models according to the trading data, but then when called to operate in real markets, they may not be able to function well because are confronted with unseen events or changing statistics and so on. Then, more generally, data quality is critical because these techniques can very well expose to bias. Also, in a financial trading context, we are much more familiar to bias in user facing, in consumer facing, for example, application, or the use by machine learning techniques by public authorities and so on. Then algorithmic complexity, which refers to the computational difficulty in dealing with the exploding complexity of the environment in which a given machine learning techniques is called to operate, it also play a role, meaning that some techniques may not scale well or can be really resource consuming up to the point of not really performing. Again, dealing with capital markets per se present huge problems because of their statistical properties of a high, very noisy, fat tails properties. They're not really able to be modeled by machine learning in general. Then most critical is the black box problem, which arises every time users or even developers are not able to fully understand why a given application, AI application has reached a given outcome, and can be due to several different reasons. To, for example, the complexity of the model or the architecture used, or even be exogenous, because often these techniques are called to operate in very complex environments where the interaction with other agents make unforeseeable, unpredictable its own functioning, for example. And then one big problem is that these AI applications, especially for the financial industry, are developing mainly in-house by financial players, and the risk is that there might not be enough public scrutiny, and indeed it's very hard to validate the scientific result claimed by different techniques, and because of a lack of information on, for example, the data used or lacking benchmarks of reference, it's hard to compare on the latter case and reproduce the results in the case of the former. So maybe I should speed up a bit. So talking about market manipulation by AI trading, I conceptualize 4 main baseline scenarios. First of all, AI can be involved in a crime or an offense as a victim itself. This maybe is more pedagogical, has more pedagogical value, in the sense that imagine, for instance, a financial terrorist group or somebody who wants to hack the functioning of an AI system working for a financial institution, leading it to misbehave on markets. This can be done, for example, by poisoning the data inputs, or by interfering with the functioning of the AI system itself. Then we have the scenario of operational failure, where something can go wrong, leading to some market disruption or even a attempt to market abuse on the markets. Then we also know, and we have evidence of humans directly and consciously developing and using AI system to accomplish not really lawful activities. While the second and third scenario was already known by enforcement authorities in times of more deterministic system, the more the system become complex and the harder is for enforcement authority to discern among the different scenarios and also to assess the contribution and liability among a potentially very long list of humans involved in the facts. But most interesting, I believe, and according to our research, there is increasing evidence of a fourth scenario, which will be the trickiest for enforcement authorities to deal with, which involves autonomous AI systems that, because of their growing capabilities, thanks to self-learning, will find ways to manipulate the market while pursuing a predefined business goal, regardless of any human intent. And here is where we are going to focus the talk today. So therefore, one question that I was fascinating in researching and answering was, can really software agents, for example, based on the deep reinforcement learning, self-learning in an autonomous way how to manipulate markets? It's still unclear indeed, and maybe might look like a bit sci-fi, the result and the findings of my research, but there is at least increasing evidence and research focus on the ability of reinforcement learning and deep reinforcement learning based agents to find ways to manipulate markets without a priori human intention. These many examples, many are in-lab simulations and deal with spoofing risks. Spoofing is a form of market manipulation which involves the high rate of submission, cancellation, modification of orders in order to mislead other market participants to trade in a given financial asset, for example, because you have an interest in having them trading on that side of the order book, because either you have an exposition in I don't know, in a derivative or whatever other financial instrument linked to the price of the manipulated asset, or because you may have another portfolio exposition which you will benefit anyhow from that misleading behavior. But more interesting, it's also the risk of autonomous, the involvement of autonomous independent artificial intelligence competing algorithmic traders that may find ways to tacit collude on markets. But these risks were firstly ascribed by antitrust scholar, back in 2017, although there were some questions about what should be the real technological sophistication of such agents to find ways to coordinate through interactions their behavior without specific forms or explicit form of communication. However, while this risk may still be no material, there is also for the case of collusion by AI traders or AI pricing algorithms more in general, increasing in-lab evidence, as you can see from these studies that are listed here. Although here we should say that even if there is this first evidence, it also appears clear that to really achieve some collusive outcome, independent trading algorithms need some facilitating market factors, no? Which mainly refer to the frequency of interaction, homogeneity of products, presence of market concentration and barriers to entry. Of course, these studies also, although are interesting, they're still based on some very stylized assumption about real markets that maybe make hard to allow that, make hard for them to generalize to real market context. Although I mean, besides these technical difficulties, we still in our first paper conceptualize some of the risk, and we give some examples of how this tacit collusion could really be achieved in a financial trading context. Much will depend on some market elements, some market factors. Although capital markets are very competitive markets, there might still be segment of capital markets that, because of some specificities, may be more prone, however, to risk of tacit collusion. So what happens in the case of AI autonomous manipulation? Well, with AI trading in general, we have some issues of applying traditional liability concept and rules, especially given some AI technical specificities. First of all, increasing level of automation constitutes a problem for establishing liability. Then these techniques are data dependent, meaning that sometimes can be very hard to predict their behavior due, for example, the kind of data they are fed with, or the validity of data themselves. These techniques are also called to operate in a very interconnected market, where establishing, for example, what really was the cause of a given accident and the causation between a given trading strategy, as opposed to the interaction with other trading agents, it might be very hard to establish. No? Then they could be exposed to vulnerabilities issues. Think about cybersecurity problems. Some techniques, they show the so-called black box problem, so issues of opacity where the same developers and user may find it hard to understand, predict, and control the functioning. And overall, they increase complexity in terms of number of components, both hardware and software, the increase in number of specialists, human experts involved. They are more complex in the design and the way the system operates. So because of these complexities, let's say, it will be extremely hard to establish concept of liability that are based on intent or negligence and so on. And indeed, this might be also the case for the market abuse regulation liability regime, where we have both administrative liability applying, and which does not per se require an intent requirement, but for specific form of manipulation, as you may well realize, enforcement bodies might be still required to prove some kind of mental state, no? Because it's typically hard to discern legitimate trading activities from manipulative ones, especially in very sophisticated forms of manipulation like spoofing. Whereas the criminal liability, according to the Market Abuse Directive, arise for serious and intentional cases. So the intention here is directly contemplated by the regulation. Then in terms of enforcement, we have the problem of divided interpretation among member states, which not all the member states apply criminal liabilities, and the liability rules also are nationally regulated. So in case of cross-border manipulation, this may slow down or even impede the enforcement against cases of market abuse. The main takeaway here is that AI trading may be left operating in a so-called quasi-lawless market environment, and then bypass existing regulatory regime and enforcement mechanisms. So why it's hard to deter then AI trading from committing an offenses? Because the law is usually called to deal with humans or corporation, but AI systems are kind of unusual animal for the law to regulate, being them rather a hybrid animal combining human and machine components. So AI behavior can be very different from humans or corporate behaviors to be deterred. One can think at possibilities to punish AI, but we also know that, at least for now, and I think is also not desirable, AI cannot cannot enjoy legal personality. So, for example, we cannot ask and punish AI to pay a fine or to have the assets be seized and so on. One future interesting possibility could be, as the technology will allow, to try to put some kind of direct deterrence formulas incorporated indirectly in the code, so that a given AI system can a priori do some kind of computational reasoning and say, okay, maybe now I will if I do this particular trading strategy, I may risk be sanctions, better not to. At the end of the day, I believe that we are still far from finding specific, we are still far from having the need for specific deterrence of punishment of AI, but we should still work on keeping the human corporation that use and benefit from AI responsible and liable. Here there is maybe I'm a bit going over time, so if you want, we can go back in the Q&A session. I have my proposal that I developed last year. So mainly, maybe briefly, we should have more arm-centered definition of manipulation. We just focus on the objective elements of manipulations, on the effect of markets. For the administrative offense, I suggest a strict liability rule with maybe a contributory negligence on trading venue, which are called indeed to some kind of delegated responsibilities and control over algorithms. I will still keep criminal liabilities, but based not with the intent requirement, but rather with the recklessness standard for very serious offense. And we should have both individual and corporate criminal liability in order to better deter corporation individuals in keeping control of their algorithms, but also cooperate with enforcement bodies if something wrong happens. Then, from a compliance perspective, or rather, the governance of algorithms is mainly based on a technology neutral regulation, meaning that regulators are do not really much engage with the specific technology being used, but they rather apply a behavioristic approach to the control of algorithms. So they command certain behaviors, and they don't want, for example, that market conduct arise. To this end, MiFID and supplementing regulation provide some legal organizational requirement for investment firms. They have to disclose the use of algorithms, conduct behavioral testing and conformance testing with trading venues. They have some internal controls like risk management or preset limits in trading strategies. And they also have to monitoring with automated system the trading happening in their code. The question is, what happens when we introduce AI with its technical specificities of autonomy, self-learning, and opacity, and the growing capabilities? There are issues. For example, how can we ensure real compliance, given that mainly this is delegated to the self-assessment to corporations, and this also has a very high, shall lead to information asymmetry between the investment firm using AI and the supervisor that should be called to operate and understand the functioning of the technology being used. And this behavioral testing always enough to ensure compliance with market conduct rules. The fact is that when a trading firm operates on the market, there is a presumption of conformity. But indeed, what is really applying is the conformance testing part that is a delegated responsibility for trading venues to check over the firm. So as long as a trading techniques is profitable and doesn't go on the spot of regulators or supervisors, we may have firms using some malicious algorithms and may even don't be aware to some extent to the end. All this translate in this dichotomy. On a side, the jure, there are strong explainability requirement, meaning a firm should be able to explain, understand, and control, predict the functioning of the algorithms. But de facto, there are many open questions on this. And indeed, in my opinion, these create problems for the compliance and risk management staff that must be able to understand and control the behavior of the algorithmic trading system. Maybe a future venue here for research is the All Explainable AI Scholarship in the context of regulatory technology. Then I try to go fast because I think I'm late. On the other hand, we have supervisors that are called to check the conduct of algorithmic traders, and they have two main mechanisms. On one hand, they delegate responsibility to trading venues, which are called to through automated means of surveillance to monitor trading, and when they spot something suspicious, to call supervisor and try and provide information to allow supervisor then to investigate more on alleged case of manipulations. Then supervisor may have and usually have some direct market surveillance system in place, but not all European supervisors have the same attitude and proactiveness in doing that. So there are many challenges for enforcement, for supervision. Mainly, trading venues may have conflict of interest between a rigid screening and the profit-oriented business they have. They are mainly focused on their own single market supervision. They still need technology, which must be sophisticated enough to spot sophisticated trading techniques. On the part of financial supervisors, they also lack cross-market and cross-border market control supervision, and they, if they want to, they need cooperation among different national competent authorities to ensure that. But they lack harmonized formats for transaction data. They lack availability of order data to spot specific form of manipulation like spoofing. They still need sophisticated technology and especially human expert with specific domain knowledge. At the end, I think that here it's really a cat and mouse technological game between private actors and financial supervisors. Maybe I will stop with this slide. Looking at the future, supervisors are also using AI to supervise AI. I was speaking with a representative for the Dutch financial authorities, and they are indeed just established a cooperation with the Alan Turing Institute to study more through machine learning based techniques the physics of manipulations. They mainly use agent-based modeling techniques in order to simulate markets, to model different actors, including manipulative agents, observe the effect on market in order to better understand and define forms of manipulation. However, these require a lot of expertise, and nevertheless will probably require also to establish dialogue and partnership with market participants in order to achieve legal certainties and establish clearly the rules of the game. Maybe if I have time, I will explain my proposal later. We'll give some idea.
You can do. Yeah.
So, well, from my talk, you may think, are regulators really engaged with the risk arising from AI? Somehow they are. There is one really last report by ESMA this month has been published, but they, in my opinion, are missing the issue of manipulation. They talk about the risk of concentration in the industry, for example, risk of transparency, explainability, risk of financial stability, but they're not much engaged with the risk of market manipulation and collusion. There may be just one report from the OECD in 2017 talking about collusion. Then the more active, I think, is the Bank of England, which is really investigating in the complexity induced by machine learning in terms of model validation and so on. So as a suggestion, me and my co-authors, in one paper, we argue that we should complement behaviorist regulation with some I don't want to say we should abandon the technology neutrality, but I think the regulators should try to dig into the complexity introduced by the technology itself and consider a specific application in the wider socio-technical context in which they operate. And this can be, so we find, let's say, a room for increasing regulatory governance. So working incrementally to existing legislation and regulation to add new rules on a risk-based approach according to the risk posed by specific application. And this could be achieved by an engineering approach to the AI life cycle. for the purpose of complexity mastering, as derived from classical software engineering, meaning we need really to understand the technology that is behind in order to empower private organization to work to the development of responsible AI, and regulators to understand what is the object of the that need to be regulated. As you can see, it is from the Silva-Alacaton paper of 2022. The technology behind the AI life cycle and the AI trading system is really complex. And maybe it's not enough to just prescribe the achievement of a given behavior on market, but rather trying to single out the different phases of the AI life cycle and impose some forms of standards, benchmarks to ensure validity and reliability of outcome. And in a sense, we are inspired a lot by the currently discussed EU AI Act. In different AI trading application could be regulated according to the risk they pose. The assumption is that not all AI trading applications present the same risks. Indeed, to higher risk, then proportionally we should require investment firms higher regulatory requirement to comply with a higher regulatory requirement. One interesting idea being proposed is by Schmidt and others. They suggest to define different AI systems according to the methods involved, not only the specific AI and machine learning methods, but also the complexity of the architecture. Then to look at the capabilities of this AI system, meaning what are the possible impact on market? Are they dealing with one asset? Are they doing according to the strategy in some kind of arbitrage between different markets and assets? And criticality to try refer, which is based on methods and capabilities and the impact on market according to the specific use cases. So I think I stop here and feel free to ask something, any question, or you can reach me out.
Thank you. Wow.
As soon as
a lot of great
was long, huh?
Yes, and a lot of ideas. But I start with questions. I ask some questions hopefully coming in. Please send us questions. My first question, everybody wants to be rich. Everybody wants to have an AI algorithm or app service who makes one rich in the trading. The problem is, as you said, that there is, of course, not the perfect algorithm, right? There is not. Can you recommend any AI algorithm which could help a normal person to get more money?
I'm not in a position to give you this suggestion, honestly. I mean,
that's bad. I'm inviting you to this.
I would suggest not to trade.
No, but it's a little bit direct question. The key
no, I mean,
is
what is important here in using any kind, in delegating some agency to any kind of algorithm is to be aware of what's the purpose you are using for, the capabilities. It's better to know what you are actually doing before delegating something to a machine. I use this improper term, and you are not in control of it, no? Because at the end of the day, you may be responsible, but you also have your wealth at stake.
Yes. So you cannot recommend us here in the cafe a good software to get rich. That's really sad. I understand.
Probably I was not having this conversation today.
Coming to the question, the key, everything is complex without AI already. I mean, we know that you cannot just control or master the market and by trading. It is so complex that it's hard to make an algorithm about it, because nobody really as a human knows. There are wealth managers who help you. There are humans who help you to make more wealth out of your money, but also they have 49% negative and 51% positive. So even these professionals who do it 40 years for you, none can tell how exactly it works. It's a game. That's the problem. That's why you cannot code it. You cannot make it a software who can. So Now comes my real question. Now we want to even to use AI to supervise AI trading. That means a black box supervises another black box. Isn't that a little bit, I mean, even making the problem even worse? Because number one, you don't know what the AI does. It's a black box. And then you use another black box to supervise.
No, thanks for the question. This indeed is a brilliant and very stimulating one. Using AI, black box AI system to monitor other potentially black box AI system opens new questions. Where what a machine learning based techniques might be useful for is indeed to model and simulate the effect of market of specific form of manipulation or trading strategies, to better define what we already presume to know about known forms of market manipulation, the example of spoofing I was giving before. On the other hand, whenever especially public authorities are using opaque algorithm, it can be a big issue for them, because in Europe, for example, good administration is a fundamental right. According to good administration, any authority must provide sufficient and valid reasoning for any administrative decisions they may take. So can enter in conflict with fundamental rights of people being supervised, but and with the operation of providing or the provision of public services. However, AI can be useful again to provide some signals, some information to the human expert in charge of supervision, which then is according to his expertise and the evidence provided by maybe an AI as a recommender system, apply human judgment but be still in control of the whole decision-making process.
Yes, I think this is, I mean, I'm doing this Café since 4 years in all topics. It is in the moment everybody agrees we must have the human in the loop, no? To make decisions. We have to keep him or her in the loop, because you cannot use AI to to control AI. I mean, this is like, it doesn't work. You need the human in the middle.
Yeah, indeed. It's also true that the complexity of the markets does not allow human eye to monitor and spot any particular event, for example. Indeed,
yes.
There must be some complementarity between the AI and the man involved.
Yes, yes. So now we go to, here are many questions coming in. I took the floor too long. So it goes, and Alexei, are there relevant regulators? Meant, I have to just make it better so we see it better. Are there relevant regulatory acts or standards on the use of AI machine learning as of today in trading or more generally?
Well, for the case of the European Union jurisdiction, for example, there are rules for algorithmic trading, generally speaking. There are no specific regulation targeting AI trading per se, and is not even defined the use of AI in algorithmic trading. Also, an algorithm is not even defined by EU financial law, for example. They just define algorithmic trading. And indeed, as maybe I was too fast in the presentation, was maybe too abundant of information, that also make no easy for me the task of providing explaining clearly to you. There are legal and organizational requirements applicable to investment firms that use algorithmic trading. And there are also some requirements for the trading venues that provide the service of putting together and in communication different and competing traders, to mainly govern the risks associated to algorithmic trading, like operational failures or market disruptions. There are some provisions dealing with market manipulation indirectly, putting in control the users of the algorithm. But as I try to say, everything is delegated to market participants, and supervisors, they just enter in the game when they see the bunch of market data and try to scan what went wrong eventually and investigated potentially alleged case of manipulation.
Thank you. And now Leo. Leo says, greetings from the Netherlands. What do you think of the confirmation bias of AI? Could this lead to real disruption?
Well, many biases involved with the AI can lead to many disruptions. And indeed, using complex techniques without really controlling them can have really a cascading effect on markets, also because of how markets themselves are functioning. Maybe problem arising in a little corner of capital markets due to maybe a relevantly little market players according to trading volumes can then be have contagious effect on the whole system and maybe put at risk financial stability. So I mean, biases in machine learning techniques must be taken into consideration. And also the so-called automation bias. No, we need to empower not only who use AI systems in rejecting or stopping one system to function, but also the supervisors when they use AI, as to go back to the question before, to mindfully partner with the technology.
Yes. Okay, we have a lot of questions. The time is over, and as good old German lady, we are on time. But who wants to stay? Are you ready for 2 more questions, Alessio?
Yes, I mean, I'm here for this.
Also, who also from the audience wants to stay because it's fair? Ralph asked, do the observed market manipulation only affect short-term trading or also long-term investments and long-term valuations of assets?
Okay, this is an interesting question because open many fields for future research, in many areas for future research indeed. For sure, we can easily conceptualize the risks in the short term, and I look at, for example, the way high frequency trading works. But I wouldn't ascribe risk of manipulation only to fast-paced market environments. I think also in less fast segment of the capital markets, there might be risk of manipulation. For example, in growth-driven markets, and as a consequence, although one may assume that because capital markets are quite competing and fast environments where distortion can be easily corrected in a relatively short time span, I also believe that having market prices polluted by false and misleading signals can in the long term have also some kind of effect. We shouldn't forget that nowadays markets are really a ping pong of interactions between algorithms, and the effect on valuation and long-term effect on prices are very underexplored.
Yes. So now comes the last question, and I must say your subject interests a lot of people, and maybe you use the email.
I would be glad to receive emails. Yes.
Because there is a lot. I give you now the last question, but we have at least 10 more like this. It's incredible. Hi, Alessio. Thank you for your presentation. I'm interested to knowing a bit more about your suggestions in terms of Article 12(1)(a) MAR. If I understand you correctly, you want to implement a harm measure and impose strict liability on offenders. How, however, do you determine what harm is? Would such a system really differ from the current regime? Furthermore, do you think it would provide more legal certainty, clarity than the current regime? Complex questions.
No, very complex question, but very to the point also of my current studies. Well, my idea in an ideal world could be the one, although with the risk in falling price regulation, it's hard to draw the line when a given regulatory intervention becomes price regulation. Anyway, my idea should be the one to have more clearly defined let's say, price boundaries within which one could maybe flag a risk of manipulation to happen. And of course, I'm there assuming that we still have the ability to detect and to clearly draw the line between legitimate trading, what is legitimate trading and what is not. Then connecting this answer to the what I was saying before on agent-based modeling, indeed, these kind of innovative techniques, which are very well researched in the US, and that there is now evidence of the Dutch supervisor with the Alan Turing Institute, they are trying really to assess what are the market impact. So they are looking really at the effect on market. And maybe with trying to developing a behavioralistic science on regulation, we could have at least more clearly defined boundaries of what is legitimate and what is not. I don't have a clear answer indeed. I mean, I'm really working on hypothetical terms in many of also my suggestions. I'm taking for granted many supervisory capabilities and so on.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I know in Singapore it's already late. We are still here.
It's 10 p.m. Indeed, I'm still in the office. It was super long day, as you can maybe see from my face.
No, you look beautiful. Perfect. But the time is over. And as I say, there's a lot of very quality questions out there. I think everybody, and I'm sorry, I cannot stay longer
maybe
here.
Carmen, if you can, you may copy and paste the question to me. Maybe I cannot reach back the author, the single authors, but at least it's helpful for me to see where I am with the research, if it was clear, if I can learn something from the question and so on. And please, all the other the people in the audience can always reach out.
Yeah, I cannot send you the emails, but if somebody wants to reach out, send an email. You can send it to me, you can send it to Alessio. I will forward it to Alessio if you don't find the email. But you get the content of the questions. So have a nice day, everybody. And I sent you also the recording, Alessio, after when it's ready, and you decide if you want to have it online or not. So
yes, at the end, the personal data involved are mine, you know.
Yes.
Thank you.
Have a nice day, and
thanks again for organizing this.
Yes.
Thank you.